Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depending on where you're listening to this training. So this is the Cisco Cybersecurity Operations Associate Training. It's a 28 module series that covers basics, intermediate level of cybersecurity, gives you some groundwork or some background training on operating systems, connectivity, networking, goes into digital forensics, threat intelligence, and quite a handful of stuff that a tier one or a tier two SOC analyst should be able to understand and actually deploy. SOC, I mean Security Operations Center Analyst. Okay, we're in module 7. So it's a very sharp, fast, brief module. So I'll just go through it. Most of the things here, it's you trying to be able to ensure that you have connectivity that between PC1 and PC2, how am I sure that I have a connection? Between PC2, PC3, how am I sure I have a connection? So, connectivity is very important. How do you establish connectivity to your router? How do you establish connectivity to your switch? How do you establish connectivity to a website, to any item within your infrastructure? So ICMP, Internet Control Messaging Protocol, is very, very important. That is what actually gives us responses anytime we try to do a ping or a traceat or a trace route or a net start or whatever. All of those messages that we get in return, it's facilitated by the ICMP, that is the Internet Control Messaging Protocol. So in this module, you want to be able to explain how ICMP can be used to text connectivity. Then you want to be able to use very basic Windows commands, right, to verify connectivity. That should be all. ICMP. So this suite provides messages to be sent in the event of certain errors. You want to be able to test your networks or your network. So the messages are not required and also not allowed within a network for security reasons. But ICMP is available both in 4 and in 6. ICMP messages common to both ICMP version 4 and 6 includes you want to confirm your host. So you do stuff like you ping the guy. You want to check destination. You want to see if a particular service that you have running or you want running is available, is reachable. Then you want to see time. Then you want to see route redirection. Okay, we'll see those commands later on. Please log on to your LMS, your Cisco Learning Management System. If you don't have access to that, please let us know so that you can have access to the Cisco Learning platform. So these slides are actually an abridged version of the detailed explanation of most of the concepts I'm talking about. So you have a short video there within your LMS. Please watch it. It's going to explain to you, or for instance, if you're using the Cisco Packet Tracer, you can actually exemplify this. You create a host, two hosts on a switch to a router on a switch, two hosts. So if you try to ping this guy, right? This is 192.168.30.1, but this is 192.168.10.1. So this is a LAN network, a different network. This is a different network. The only guy that can connect these two guys together is a router. That's why it's called a router. A router connects two or more, or rather, you can say just a router connects a network to another. That's why it's called routing protocol, routing table. So the routing table contains the IP address, all of these headers, packets, whatever, so that it can identify each system here and help it through a default gateway like we saw in the previous model, and send that information to another network. So anytime you type ping 192.168.30.1, when it hits the switch passes on to the router. The router says okay, this thing belongs to this guy, right? Because dot 30 is this guy, dot 1 is this guy, so he sends it to the guy. So if you get a response and your response is 0 not reachable, 1 host unreachable, 2 protocol unreachable, 3 port unreachable. So these are some of the messages that you have and you should be able to understand for the purpose of your CISCO exam. Of course, I talked about time to leave. So you cannot send a packet and it's going to be forever. No, that's not possible. So there's always going to be a time that's going to drop. So if a router receives a packet and decrements the time to leave field in the packet IP version 4 packet to 0, it discards the packet and sends the time exceeded message. Just for instance, if you try to browse on your PC, for instance, let's say using Chrome or Firefox, Safari, whichever one, that packet of data that you send through your router through the internet normally have a default time to leave. It can be 10 seconds, it can be 30 seconds, it can be whatever. But the point is that after that time have exceeded, it will drop that packet, it will discard it, and to tell you host not reachable or time exceeded. Even may you trying to use a mobile app, maybe a banking app, maybe an educational app, or maybe a whatever kind of app, there is always a time limit between your different sessions. Once it exceeds, it will tell you session. What does it normally say? So you need to understand that concept. So for IP, so this is for IP version 4. These are the messages for the purpose of your exam. You need to understand these concepts as I'm explaining them. Please take your notes. If you have questions, please do ask within the WhatsApp training group. Then for IP version 6, you have router solicitation message, router advertisement message, and of course neighbor. You'll get to understand this concept more when you do CCNA 3, that is Cisco Enterprise Networking, Security and Automation, that is ENSA. That's where you understand a lot of protocols and see how, wow, enterprise networking, security, let me get this guy down, and automation. So this is the security and automation. So this is the third series in the Cisco CCNA course. For those of us that want to get into networking, so you could go run the Cisco routing switching course, and of course the Cisco enterprise networking course. Router solicitation message. So if you need to connect your router, or for two routers to communicate, there must be solicitation. This message is being sent. And of course, every router on the network is going to advertise. It's going to say, oh, I am here. Oh, this is my IP address. This is my MAC address. This is my details and whatever. They will send out all of those advertisements so that other routers within the network can actually connect to them. So that is a very, very simplistic way you can understand the router solicitation and the router advertisement. I think it's a little bit explained here, so you can look it up. Okay. So question you're going to ask yourself is that what happens if you have a duplicate address? So even in IP version 6, in IP version 4, and whichever version, have you seen something like IP conflict? So how does it know that there's an IP conflict? Because two devices on the network cannot use same IP address. So that checks for uniqueness of an address. So to send a network solicitation message with its own IP version 6 address, right? So if you come on a network, one of the first things you're going to run is you're going to say, please, I'm soliciting, especially if you've already been assigned an IP address before then. You're going to be soliciting for a particular IP address that you have. So if the router accepts that, if nobody else is using that, you cannot confirm that, you cannot start broadcasting with that particular IP address. If that's not the case, it will give you a message reply and say, please, you have duplicate address. So your option is to, for instance, reset the adapter, or if you refresh it, or to try to assign a new IP address to you. Okay, so ping and trace out. Now, there's a short video in your Cisco LMS. Please and please get to the Cisco Learning Management System and get to this 8 minute video. It's a short video, but it demonstrates all of these things practically, and you can follow along and get the skills. Please. Very, very important. So you have things like IP config. So IP config is going to give you the IP address you have on your PC. It's going to get you things like MAC address. It's going to get you things. I think those are the most two important things that you're going to get you. Ping. So the ping command is going to be able to try to see if another host is reachable. You can also see if a website, you could say ping southtechventures.com. You could say ping a particular website. If the website is reachable, it's going to give you revert. And of course, NS lookup to test domain name server for maybe website or for network servers. Net start to see all of your open ports and closed ports. And in the last, I think module also, I said you could use the TCP/IP to see something more detailed. The TCP/IP view is a suite in the CIS internals suite. This 8 minutes video is a very handsome video. Please get along with it and make sure you have practiced most of those things. So that's what I just explained earlier on. You could use the ping command. Yes, you could check for loopback, default gateway, a remote host. Just put say ping, the IP address, and you get a reply. So this is an example, right? So you say, okay, let me get it somewhere. Let me get it. These are just explanations. Ping a remote host. Yes, you could ping an IP address that is not within, provided you connected to the internet, you should be able to get replies. There's a short video here too that explains most of these things. For traceout, you want to test path. If I have a website, for instance, southtechventures.com, if I want to see how many hops, how many networks do I have between my router at home or in the office to where that website is being hosted, or where that particular IP address on the network or through VPN on my branch office is located, I could just say trace out the website name or trace out the IP address. It will just start counting how many hops. It will give me each of those IP address. If it gets through different countries, it's going to tell me everything and give me the IP address. So you could try that out, get your CMD and just type trace out an IP address or trace out a website. Round trip time. So the trace out provides a round trip time for each hop. It's going to tell you how many minutes as you run the command. Okay, so hop limits, each hop, this is a hop, this is a hop, right? So for ICMP packet formats, don't forget, for the purposes of your exam, 0 is echo reply, response to a ping, 3 is destination unreachable, 5 is redirect, 8 is echo request for ping, whereas 11 is time exceeded. Okay, so I think that is all for this very short module. What you want to understand is how do you use the connectivity CLI commands to check for if a host is available, if it's reachable, if it's up and running, or if a particular service is up and running, or how many hubs do I have between, depending on the command you are running. Okay, so that was going to be all for the Cisco Module 7 Connectivity Verification. Thank you very much. These are some of the new words that you learned: ICMP, TTL, NDP, RS, Slack, DAD, Ping, Traceout, RTT, and hop limit. Okay, let me explain hop limit a bit. I think I saw it somewhere. Okay, yes. Now, the thing is, normally you have hop limits most times of 30. So if from my room to where my website is hosted is, let's say, 50 hops. So normally if I say 3sat or traceroute southerventures.com, if it's more than, it will just count that 30 and it will tell me more than that. But if it's less, it will count the 4 and tell me it is 4. So the traceroute uses the function of the TTL, that is the time to leave field, in the IP version 4, and the hop limit field in the IP version 6 in the layer 3 header, along with the ICMP time exceeded message. So the first sequence of messages sent from the traceroute have a TTL field value of 1, which causes the TTL to time out of the IP version 4 packet at the first router. So the 1 is the first router. Traceroute then progressively increments the time to live to 2, 3, 4. For each sequence of messages, this provides a trace with the address of each hop. Like I said, if I need to get to this place, first hop, if I have stuffs within pieces or whatever, this is a hop, 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 hop. If it has set this to 1, after this, it tells you exceeded, right? Because it only envisaged 1 hop. I hope that's clear. So you can always watch this video to get more inspiration from the Cisco Learning Management System. Okay, yes, that is all for this module. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you in the next module.